Welcome to the Buddha Belly Life podcast. I am so excited today to be introducing you guys. This is the first time I've ever had one of our HWCA graduate coaches on the podcast. And we're going to be doing more of this, but today we are starting with Emily Lewis. We like to refer to her as Coach M. She is part of the Positively Fit community, and she is here to talk to us today about her experience with gut restoration. We're going to talk about all kinds of aspects in that. And I think you guys are going to be really, really excited to hear some of the things that she's sharing. So welcome, Coach M.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
This is pretty fun.
Yeah.
This is great. And I get to see you on the video.
Yeah.
It's not often I get to see you guys. You always got to look at my face, but I don't get to see yours.
I know. I'm like, this is weird. I'm actually meeting you virtually.
So, Emily, I have a little background. You'll have to forgive me. I'm not using the video that's on this. We're just on audio, but for Pete's sake, there's this fly in here. And so I might be stuck batting it away. If I accidentally miss it and hit the microphone, which is very likely, that's why. So Emily, give us a little background. So you are now involved in health. Obviously you're a coach, you do nutrition coaching, you're very involved in fitness. Give us a little background on what got you into the health world, and then where did that transition and some of your challenges that's brought you to this point? Can you just share with us a little bit of your story?
Yeah. So I actually reached out to my very first coach when I was like struggling with, like a breakup, back in the day, back in like 2019, I believe it was. And that's when I actually
way back in the day
getting more. Yeah, right. way back when, like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I had started struggling really bad with confidence. So that's what actually led me into fitness. But the more that I got involved with it, the more that I fell in love with it. And I started, right after grad school, I started in a job, like a sales rep job. And I decided it really wasn't for me. And I was doing coaching part-time. And I had just decided to go full-time when I had built my clientele up, and I just knew that it was my passion. So that's what drove me to the fitness industry and that platform. Now, as soon as I started with the fitness industry, I went through this challenge called 75 Hard. And I don't know if you've...
Yes, I love that you're going to talk about this. I just talked to somebody about this today.
I was about to say, Brady's going to love this.
Yeah.
No idea. So I started the 75 Hard challenge. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a very, very masculine challenge. And I was already in my masculine energy from being an entrepreneur and being a business coach, really just helping other women. So being, the top of your
leading other women, you take on more of a masculine role. I feel like, because you're
isn't that crazy? Yeah. Because of the structure and when you are an entrepreneur, that comes out of you. So I was doing this challenge 75 Hard, and you guys have got to look it up. We won't get super into detail about that challenge, but you guys got to look up the guidelines of it. Well, when I was going through it, I had gotten down to about 120, 125 pounds, and I'm 5'6", and my body usually sits comfortably right around 140, 145, naturally. It just likes that weight and that body fat and that muscle mass at that range of 140, 145. I had gotten down to about 120, 125, and I was super lean, looked great, had this ripped body, or I thought I looked great. All of a sudden I had lost my cycle, lost my period, and I was struggling with gut issues very badly. I had even ended up in the hospital a few times with severe pain, congested heart, swollen liver, really infected appendix, and it was all stemming from my gut. But no one had any answers for me. Nobody had any answers for me. The surgeons, the doctors, the GI specialists, they were kind of left I don't know what to tell you, but let's do some follow-up appointments to see if we can pinpoint it. but nothing was really given to me. So I started working with my very first gut coach. And then that's what led me into become a gut specialist, a holistic gut practitioner. So like my trial and errors were then my passion. But throughout this entire journey, I had still not started my cycle. So that is why we were like really here today to talk like a lot about that. But for the majority of the part, my fitness journey started with low confidence, fell in love with that. Then I started with the hormonal issues and gut issues, and that is what led me to become a holistic gut practitioner.
So when you started, I think you said some really great touch points here. Mm-hmm. And so when you started your fitness journey, was this post bad breakup of 100 years ago in 2019?
Yes, this was post bad breakup years ago.
Yeah.
Back when I was a young child.
And I think a lot of us, myself included, can relate to that. The confidence piece and where we seek to regain it when we go through a loss like that, depending on how the relationship deteriorates and all the things, right? And then we go on to kind of prove something, or we go on to, I'm only going to speak for myself. I can't speak for anyone else, but I think I have done that in my life, going through divorce and stuff like that, and being in, I was in a pretty abusive marriage. It wasn't the most faithful place. I mean, I never felt of value. My only value I felt was not in my soul. It was in my sexuality or my physical appeal or my anything. And that didn't stand a chance to the rest of the world, because I learned really quickly that not only was there going to be somebody that could, supersede that, or just somebody who's new, or even people that maybe they don't supersede it, but it's opportunistic and it's in the time. And you realize eventually that you can't compete with any of that. So you leave the relationship. But even though I know, like for me, I left the relationship, I still was like, my comeback, right, was I'm going to be the best at all these things. And of course, we strive for the physical attributes. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. I'm going to show them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to try and feel confident now when I go out into the world. And I call it almost masochistic. Like we slit our own wrists. We hurt ourselves to try and deal with a previous pain.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of you touched on a really big point there is like, oh, I got hurt. I'm going to become the most confident. I'm going to show this person, or like, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. That then brings out the masculine in us too. You know what I mean?
Like it's very like mode,
structured, and just like constant, like getting on top of your stuff that you want to get done, and like having like a very structured schedule, and just like really, really pushing yourself. And you forget to like process like exactly what's happened to you or what happened in the relationship. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're truly healing. You're just like trying to change your outside perspective of things, if that makes sense.
Yes, you're trying to manipulate the body.
Exactly.
And oftentimes it's against what the body needs. So if you look at it like it was a secondary person, like I always use the analogy of a child, right? Mm-hmm. Because we nurture our children. We look out for our children. We protect our children. A good parent doesn't put their child down and make fun of their body, or, withhold nutrition and food from them. And, we pay attention kind of to what they eat and that they sleep enough. I mean, like, right. We nurture our children, but we don't do that with ourselves. So here you go through something traumatic. Mm-hmm. So your body, your soul, your mind is all reeling from it. And what do we decide? I'm going to kick your ass more. That's what we decide.
Right? I'm going to beat you down.
Oh my gosh, you've been through so much. Now I'm just going to continue this process by just totally beating you up with, forcing you when you're not sleeping to go hit the gym and go into a complete manic state, and your adrenals are burnt, and we're going to withhold food and fat and do all these things. So
now you're going to go take physical,
a run. Yes. And then we get this physical result. And that physical result, it's like a drug. You know what I mean? We get in a process of self-medication, manipulating. So, not to go on a tangent about these kinds of things, but I think that that's something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to cover it because of where we find our value or not when we start a process like this. So you got the physical results, but they came at the detriment of your overall life and health.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like when I was going through all of those stages, when I, had lost my cycle, was like, oh, this is weird. Keep going. I'm in the middle of a workout, like type thing. Didn't even faze me type thing. And that's literally the second that I realized. I remember it to this day. I was doing an outdoor workout, part of the 75 hard challenge. And I remember like going to the restroom and like looking down and being like, that's odd. Like that has never happened to me, but oh, well, whatever. I got to go back to this workout. Like I'll deal with that later. And I ignored the signs. I did not check up on it any further. And I just literally, I actually prided in not having a cycle because I was in that state of mind. It's like, I don't have one. Like I don't need one type thing. Like I don't have to worry about that. And even when I went to the doctor to like let my doctor know that I didn't have a cycle, she said it was normal. She said it was normal because I had been on birth
common,
control.
not normal.
Yeah. So she said it was normal because I had been on birth control for so many years, which was almost 10 years at that point. It was like 9 years. And I was like, oh, it's normal. So I guess I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And when you get that secondary validation, we're like, oh, okay, that's fine. Now I can make peace with it and move on and be really stoked about my abs.
Yes, exactly. About my six pack that I have. Like, screw everything else. I look I look super lean. Like now I'm just muscle and bones. But then I also with the gut issues too. I mean, yeah, I went to the doctors and whatnot, but for a long period of time, I just kind of ignored it and thought like, oh, it's just because like this is normal. Like, this happens. And I just kind of ignored the signs of like, why is my body going through this all of a sudden at this point?
Yes. And you got to look at environment. If you have a dramatic change overnight, and this happened to my grandma, when she went through, all of a sudden she was having really bad memory loss and cognition issues and stuff. And they're trying to do all these tests and look at these things, but it was dramatic, and dramatic change shows an environmental factor. It shows there's something in this vicinity that is affecting, or multiple somethings, we need to pay attention to that. And I like that you brought up, like you said, your appendix and stuff. Okay. That's something that's not often talked about, but I can't tell you how many people I know who've been bodybuilders, weightlifters, weight trainers, competitors who end up with their appendix out. And people don't understand. They're like, you don't need your appendix when your appendix totally affects your gut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I didn't understand when I was in the hospital and my liver was swollen and they found a nutmeg appearance on it, and then they put on my charts that I had congested heart failure. So then I couldn't get health insurance for like years later, and I finally have a good health insurance now. But they were very concerned about, like, okay, well now your appendix is swollen and we might have to do surgery. So you're going to have to stay overnight. But when I went to the surgeon and he was like, wait, so you're not having constant pain? So it's just this one time you had pain and it was inflamed and like now it's not. So he was like, you don't have appendicitis. And if it weren't for this one surgeon that I visited about my appendix, I probably never would have like reached out to a holistic gut practitioner, because he told me, I don't think that you have appendicitis. I think seriously, I would just never even think about the situation again and move on from it. And I asked him, I was like, can I just ask you a question? Because I had so many doctors over me in the hospital and they were all telling me 5 different things. Does my digestive system, will that cause an inflamed, like, will this cause my other organs to just all of a sudden inflame? And he said, absolutely. He said, if I were you, I would reach out to a holistic gut practitioner.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And so you started this journey, and you started this journey before you were in a space where you felt great, right? The journey, how long was the journey for you? Like how long from now back to when this really started, the hospitalization piece and stuff, how long has that journey been for you?
So that all started, my gut issues started back in 2019. Probably about 2 years. Actually, no, my whole fitness journey it's been about like 3 to 4 years. But when I lost my cycle, that was like 2.5 years ago. So this whole journey from that day of when my real health issues started, not just the confidence, not just me wanting to, get in better shape and take care of my body and exercise and all the things, but like when I started the gut issues, the hormone issues, and the lost cycle, that was 2.5 years ago. So it's taken me 2.5 years to finally like feel safe in my body. So not only, incorporating the exercise, the nutrition, but also like the trauma healing and really like moving energy through my body, which I was not aware of until I kept hearing people say it. And I was like, oh, well, maybe this has something to do with, my hormonal imbalances, or maybe, the reason why I haven't started my cycle, the doctors, they looked at all of my blood work, and when I got off of birth control, it depleted me from all of my vitamins. So I was left like napping during the day. I was left sluggish, fatigued, depressed, anxious because of my serotonin and dopamine levels. So I was like just
and it
left
affects
with like,
your gut.
Yeah. And I was just left with
your
like,
hormones.
Okay, what is going on with me? Like I'm not this person. And when I got my hormones tested and I started working with another health and wellness professional, we were like, okay, something's going on. All of my nutrients like vitamin D, B12, all of that stuff was really depleted. After doing the gut restoration, I started feeling more energetic. So I was like, you know what? It's been a year. I'm going to go get retested for all of this stuff. I'm going to go to the same place. So I have everything.
So pause on that. On that. I love where you're going. So just to fill you guys in, so Emily started training. So she was working in this stuff. She was on this journey before she came to HWCA. But she started with us about a year ago, right? Because that's when we were gearing up to start the big group holistic gut practitioner certification, when we led everyone at one time. That was the first time we ever did that. And you were in that group, right?
Yeah.
That's where you came in. So it's been about a year now. And when they go through the certification, they get to follow along with the Buddha Belly program, the gut restoration, the 5-week. And they can choose to do it just observation. They can choose to do it what we call maintenance, or they can choose to go, balls to the wall. And let's all take a guess at which Emily chose to do.
I love
observation only. She only observed. No, I'm kidding. She jumped. She was 150%. I will say she was probably one of the most diligent participants we've ever had.
Structured. My boyfriend was like, "You don't have to be perfect about this." I was like, "But I do. I need all the results. I need to understand what my clients are going to go through." So funny. But yes, I went balls to the wall and I went all the way in. I think there was only about like 3 or 4 of us that actually did it. And when I was going through this gut restoration, but at the 4th week was when I actually started to notice like, wow, I feel so much more energy, like so much more energetic. I just feel bright. I feel happy. So I went and got my hormones and my levels and vitamins retested, and everything had significantly improved. Wow. Because I focused on my gut health. So I was actually holding on to my vitamins and minerals and nutrients I was eating, and all of those supplements.
And you're eating stuff that was high in nutrition in general.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And of course, like with the supplements and stuff too from Microbiome Labs was really helpful. So when I got retested, the doctors were kind of like, okay, there's still some improvement that you need to make, but we're not sure why you have not started your cycle. So do you even want to start your cycle? Do you care? And I was like, okay, like I wouldn't have, but now I do. Like I want to start my cycle. So they didn't really have any answers. They actually wanted me to just get on Synthroid because my thyroid is pretty low right now, but I'm taking.
Sorry, my fly hitter fell down.
But I'm actually taking like other supplements right now too to help with that, and just going the more holistic approach than taking like a synthetic hormone supplement. So they were talking about that, but then they also, my OBGYN doctor wanted me to do something called the progesterone challenge. So once again, forcing my body to do something that it's not ready for. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing this right now. I'm just going to take what Brittany said. And I'm just, because I remember I had actually reached out to Brittany when I first started, and I was like, look, girl, I don't have a cycle. I want this bad boy back. Like, and she told me, she said, let's focus on gut health and hopefully this will work out.
Well, just let your body. That's the thing about the body is what can it do? And that's not like, we're not there to tell people like what to do, what not to do. We're not going to undermine your doctor and whatnot. But it's just that, you know, our body does miraculous things. It's always fighting for you, and it's always fighting to recalibrate itself. So it's supporting it. And we get kind of impatient, where we're just like, okay, like I want to do this, and then I want to see this, and then this needs to happen. And sometimes people like us may be a little control freaky, and it may be our greatest lesson in life that we have to constantly relearn, is that we are not in control.
Patience, yes, and just
with the process.
That was a big one for me. Is when I had my holistic gut practitioner, she even told me, the very first like coach that I had to do anything with gut health was right after I ended up in the hospital. The next day I messaged her and said, look, girl, we need to talk, because I just got out of the hospital and this can't happen again. So when we started, she actually told me, she was like, you are a really healthy eater, and you exercise, you drink water, you eat fiber. I don't think it's the food you're eating. I think it's the way that you're living your life. You are way in your masculine energy, and there's no like give or take with you. Like, it's got to be 100% all the time, super structured, and you don't slow down, like you don't rest. And that was something that I was missing. So I was exercising, I was drinking water, eating these great foods, but I was not seeing the importance of the trauma healing, of resting, of like actually letting your body feel. Because at that point I had like lost feeling. I didn't have any empathy. I didn't have any sympathy. I didn't have a lot of emotions. I was just so caught in the way that I was living my life. I was forgetting the rest piece. And that was something I learned in Buddha Belly too, is like the life chart that you taught us, you know, like your body is more than just nutrition and exercise and all the things. There's so many little pieces that you need to make sure that you're working on. So after they kind of told me, you know, we don't know why you're not starting your cycle, I was like, okay, this has to be the piece that I'm missing. I'm missing the energy piece. I'm missing like the trauma healing piece. So then I hired another coach. I was hiring all of these people in all of these different professions that led up to where I am now. Like, yes, I'm a health and wellness coach, and I'm like very much in tune with, you know, how people should be living their lives, but I still needed to work on myself. So then I hired another coach. Yeah, hired another coach.
We all are. I think any coach who stops seeking growth should get out of coaching.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
There's no way you can lead if you're done growing.
Yeah. And then I hired somebody specifically for like releasing energy throughout the body and like really getting in touch with your feminine side, which is like what unlocked the actual success story of me like getting my cycle back and getting my body back into this like healthy space.
Oh, she said it. So I got a message a couple weeks ago and she's like, you're never going to guess this. It was the cutest message ever. So after 2.5 years of all this stuff and not having a cycle, your cycle came back.
Yes. Right? My cycle came back, amazing. But it was so much more. I like even felt it in my body of like the specific moment of when I unlocked some sort of like energy inside of me. It was the weirdest feeling. My coach and she's like basically a dance instructor. She's like a pole instructor. She's an embodiment coach. She's awesome. But when we had our call, we were doing some type of like spinal rotation. And this is like something that basically you're like opening up your chakras and you're relaxing your body from head to toe. You're moving your hips, you're moving your spine. And when I was doing this in like a very, very slow motion, I seriously felt like an energy shift inside of me that I'd never felt before. And I was like, I feel now. It was the weirdest thing. So I had been like really healing this entire time. But at that moment, I felt that shift.
Mm-hmm. And then how far was it after that before your cycle started?
24 hours to the
That's amazing.
To the point.
That's great.
I actually that week on that Sunday, I know this sounds weird, y'all, but it works. I wrote down my goals for the week, and one of them was to start my cycle.
That's an amazing goal.
Have it in my planner. Sign 5 clients, post on social media, start your cycle.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And
that's your gift. It's your ability to procreate or have children. And it's a sign that your body, there's a function. That's one of the signs of your body functioning. It's a gift of being a woman, too. I mean, it's just, yes. Wow. That's amazing. And so I believe, obviously, I'm a huge advocate of holistic health. So that is energy is a big deal. And people hear the word energy and they might freak out. They might think that everyone takes it differently, right? But we have energy in us, regardless of any belief systems. We have energy in us. That's why you know that you're not in the room alone. It's why you can see infrared heat, right? Like heat is energy. We are energy. That's how we power vehicles. Like, okay, good, yeah. We get it. We are energy. We have energy. And we feed off other people's energy and all that stuff, right? So I've always believed in that, in that very much, that health is very all encompassing. But like you said, our own personal journeys are really complex. And I mean, I left on sabbatical a bit ago, and I won't make this session about me, but I did some stuff called with somebody I trusted a lot. Now I'm like you. I'm so much masculine energy. It's not even funny.
I know, girl. I know. When we were talking, I was like, our conversations sometimes are so transactional on both ends. I was like, we wouldn't we don't need to be together.
I'm like, yeah.
Just back
and you
should
see my calendar. No, yes. Yeah. And you should see my calendars, and you should see all my plan. Yeah. I mean, I get stuff done. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. And I lead and I fight, and I've fought for a lot of things, and I've changed things. If I don't like something, I change it. Mm-hmm. I work for it. I do, boom, boom, boom. And that is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with who we are as people. That's a great thing, until you realize that sometimes maybe it's our escape. And I feel like that happened to me too. That became what I call my swords. It was especially if you come from a trauma background or things that are really hard, growing up or, later on, or both. Yeah. It's I'm you're running through the forest, and I'm I decided to stop hiding from the scary things in the forest, and I decided to draw swords and run through it anyway. And I hacked stuff down, and it was really powerful, and it's been really powerful, but it was hard for me to learn how to stop. I don't always need my swords drawn. I don't always need to be running. I'm not always fighting. Yeah. And my body does not give a damn. It says no. I understand you need this resiliency and this energy when it suits you, but you all the time is depleting you too. Yeah. So your gift is your curse.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's almost something I've learned too is what you should, I'm literally looking right when you said calendar, I'm looking up at my monthly calendar, and I have sticky notes of my goals, and then my, all the things that I need to do, and all my goals that I have, and all the things. But it's yes, have your structure, but have your structure so you can allow your rest, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So leaving
absolutely
open time is not a bad thing to oh, I have free time. That doesn't mean that I need to fill it with something else, if that makes sense.
Yes. And to dig deeper in what that meant. I had to dig deeper. That sabbatical was like that for me. I cut myself off of a lot of the have to, want to, all that stuff. And it's almost kind of painful, but when I did that, I was invited by a good friend of mine. And like I said, because I run so masculine, me, I'm not the kind of person who cries very much. And if I do, I will you won't know about it. I'm like a cat. I will hide away in the closet and self-soothe and lick my own wounds, and then I'll show up and then whatever, right? And so I was invited to do a TRE session. And I don't know if you've heard me talk about this yet. I've talked about it a little bit on some masterminds, talked about it a little bit in the classes we've been teaching on trauma, but it's called TRE, stands for trauma release exercise. And I'd been privy to it through, she's a good friend of mine. She's also a mentor though. She's older. She works in women's physical therapy health. And so she works with like postpartum women who have given birth trauma, and she works with men, but she really has this nurturing, very maternal, but like I trust her. She's the coolest human ever. Yeah. And she started training in TRE, and she asked me if I wanted to do it with her. And at first I was like, I thought she meant like train and learn with her, right? Because we can do that all day long. We always learn all the things to use on everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I said,
and to bring it to our coaching.
Exactly. I'm like, and it's not because I don't use it on me. It's just that I'm like, oh, this is so great. I know so many people who need this. Let me band-aid your wound while I'm bleeding out. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I realized she meant, let me do it with you. You know, knowing like my background and stuff a little bit about it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And this was right when I was leaving on sabbatical. But I was like, kind of like, okay, what do I expect? And the whole process of TRE is trauma release exercise. You're not talking about anything, but it's playing on the belief that even scientifically, that I could back it up with research, not going to waste everyone's time with that right now, but that the body stores trauma, just like the brain maps memories in the organ, that the organs and tissues of the body also store. And there's some science even in that. And so there's issues like, so what you were talking about with trapped energy and how kids will move and shake and scream and kick their feet. And it's a natural response to getting really big, huge feelings and pains and emotions out of the body. So it doesn't rot and store and hurt. And we're taught then to shove it down, to compose ourselves, to do this.
Yeah.
And you'll see this a lot in yoga with hip opening poses and stuff. They'll teach that too. So she has me do this session with her, and I did not anticipate. Have you heard me tell this story yet?
No.
Oh my gosh. I did not anticipate what would have happened. Had I anticipated it, I don't know if I would have shown up. I probably would have made myself show up because I know how important growth is.
Like, I need this.
Yes. But so I showed up, and I knew that, like, you know, it was meant to release stuff in the body. You're not talking about anything. It's movements that you're doing with the body. You're fatigue. It's a process of fatiguing the muscles first, and then stretching and opening and letting, you know, things like that. And so I didn't really know what to anticipate. I thought, you know, maybe, you know, you're really relaxed, things like that. So I go and do this session. She does all this stuff with me. I haven't seen a physical therapist or pelvic floor or anything since having my third child. So it was good to go in there because she's like, gosh, you're tight from head to toe. She's like, I mean, your hips, your leg, my neck, my everything is tight. So we did a lot of manipulation and we did the exercises. And it took her a while to fatigue me because I work out and I lift weights and stuff. And so, but finally when you get to the point, she's like, okay, so once my legs started shaking from doing wall sits for a while, then she's like, okay, move to the mat. And that's where we do more of the stretches and just kind of Pilates type holding poses. And right before I go to walk over to the mat, I just feel this panic attack come on. I mean, I feel it in my chest and I'm going, oh gosh, I got to get out of here. Like, I got to get out of here. Like, I'm thinking of an excuse for how I'm going to get out of here. Like, I'm rationalizing in my head, did I not eat enough this morning? You know, I'm counting the calories that I probably ate because I don't understand why I'm feeling this way. But I lay down anyway and I'm trying to hide it. And as soon as like I start doing these poses then, and they're like kind of these hip opening poses and some things, all of a sudden this thing releases, the panic attack, it releases and it moves up into my throat and I am going to cry. Like, not a little cry, like explosive, like what is happening to me right now? I was holding it back. No, I was like a cat trying to go in the bathwater. No, I did though. I did cry though, but I resisted it so hard until I couldn't. And it just starts pouring out of my eyes. And it's just her and I, and I'm mortified, right? Because I don't do that well. Yeah. I don't let myself be nurtured. I always say I'm like a man like that, right?
Yeah.
And it was crazy that process happened. And I could talk more about it later, you know, other things of it. But that's where I really believed how important it is that we understand that this is a part of the body. And you don't have to just take our word for it. Like, research it, experience it, think about your own life, try your own things. But
that is key, because I can tell you now, when I was working with my gut coach and we did a lot of the inner child healing, a lot of the mental work, a lot of the self-development work, like the journaling, the diving deeper into, you know, things that have been said to me in the past about my weight gain when I came back from college my freshman year, and like I didn't actually process those emotions, and I was holding on to all of the anger from what somebody had said to me or what happened like in my past relationships. And like, no wonder I was so in my like really like angry masculine with like men in the past, is because I didn't actually like process those emotions and forgive and be able to walk away type thing. So like now when I was like, doing the energy healing, and she was like a distant energy healer. So, it was like a lot of crystal work, a lot of that type of stuff, which was like really cool to experience. And I did like feel that, but I wasn't physically moving the energy through my body. And that was key for me. That was the piece that I was missing. So when I came across this coach, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, I've done the energy type pieces, but I've never actually physically put it to use. So this is my best shot. Like, this is the last shot I got.
And this was a different coach, right?
Yes, this is the coach that I'm working with now, the sensual, the embodiment. And when I was physically releasing that energy, it was kind of like you said, like you feel that energy shift in like a second. And not only that, but the affirmations I was stating, like 2 hours before, not even 2 hours, I was outside walking my dog, and I had done the embodiment work, the where I felt that energy shift 24 hours earlier. But that day when I was walking my dog, the next day before I started my period, I was walking my dog for 20 minutes straight. I said the words, I'm starting my period. 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 Over and over and over and over again until I got back to the house. And I had created those feelings that like I'm taken care of, and I trust my body, and I know my body is going to trust me back. Not only that, but I sat down in my meditation corner over here that I have, and I would sit down and I would actually connect and talk to my body. And that's something I learned in your program, is connecting with your body. And mine, for me at that point, was like, yes, I've focused on my gut healing. My digestion is amazing, but now I'm focusing on my like womb. I'm focusing on my like womanhood. And so I connected with my body and I spoke to it. And, I told it like, I'm sorry that I neglected you in the past, and I'm sorry that I ignored you. And I want you to know that I'm doing all the things to create a safe environment for you now. So I got a water filter. I've changed all my toxic household products to non-toxic, and just communicating to my body and like knowing that I had created a safe environment for it and telling it that it can trust me back is what led up to this. So it was like every little piece and process, but that energy, that releasing of the energy was like the last thing to unlock. So 20 minutes before I started my cycle, I was outside walking my dogs, literally saying out loud, I'm starting my period. So I'm like walking outside where people can hear me. And I come back inside and my stomach's feeling queasy. And I was like, oh my God, I was in tears. And my boyfriend was about to cry as well. Like, he was like, you worked your butt off for this. Like, this is crazy. Like, the story, the timeline was insane.
You nurtured your butt off. Working your butt off is not your hard part.
Yes, nurturing.
You nurtured your butt off.
Yeah. Yeah, nurturing, resting your butt off.
Yeah, and that love. And when you talk about the talking to the body part, I mean, that's what we learned. Like Dawn Caddy, who, was in a few podcast episodes before, and I always send her episodes to everyone because she does like tapping and she talks about pain. She taught herself to re-walk like 3-4 times. But she talked about how important it was to talk to her body. Because if you think about it, I know we talk a lot about like bad self-talk, like how we have negative self-talk, but what we don't realize is we probably spend more time berating and breaking down, not just our self-esteem body, but like our physical body with our thoughts and our words and our feelings about it, then it would mortify us. Like if we did that to our kids, you would be the worst parent ever, right? You'd never do that to something you loved.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So how's it supposed to work for you? It's still fine for you. It's like the dog. They say dog is man's best friend. Your body is your best friend. Like that thing fights for you no matter how much you try and kill it. It's still working to try and
Keep
save your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just talking to you. Like that's all it is. So it's like you can't label it good or bad. It just is. And
Data.
that talking piece was like a part of me feeling safe and a part of like my body finally feeling safe to where I was able to just unlock that energy inside of me.
That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. Like, and Emily, you're such a good example of you guys. Just to reiterate, let me touch on this first before I touch on the other thing. Okay. So when we talk about energy work and everything, I always have to do is you guys got to understand, like I train and work with such a diverse group of people. So I always have to say is I don't want anyone to disassociate from this information because of what you gravitate toward or don't gravitate toward.
Yeah.
When we talk about things, like there's people who, like, I work with coaches that love like different kinds of energy work and the crystal work and the, things like that, who do not consider themselves to be, religious or anything like that. That's, and they have different ways of being. And I have people who are devout in their religion and strong convictions and things like that. All of these people work with the body on all these levels. They connect to in a different way when we talk about energy and things like that. So don't let the words we're talking about, the different things we're referencing, don't let that freak you out because it's not specific to any one person. You got to find your journey, which brings me to my second point of this. Yeah. Emily, we always train our coaches, and Emily's done a great job of doing this, that the coach is not you're not saving anyone. You're not helping heal anyone. You're not, doing any of that the individual is their own best practitioner. So while Emily, you were blessed to have these different people walk in your life, this was all you. This was all you. You sought those people. You filtered the information that you didn't. You applied the information that you didn't. You kept going. You persevered. You did walk through the process. This was your process. It's totally your victory.
Yeah. I reached out to the people that I knew were more knowledgeable in these different areas than I was, or like just had more experience in those particular areas. And I took them and I put them to use. Excuse me.
You still probably had to filter the stuff that came in too, right? You filter it through your own.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There were some things that were like said and done, and I was like, okay, I'm taking it and putting it in my back pocket. Right. Mm-hmm. And like, if I'm using it, I'm going to use it. If I'm not, it's still in my back pocket. Like if I need it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're right. And I do like give credit to like all of the people like along the way, like you, all of my other coaches, and really just learning so much about all of these different things. And now it's made me an even better coach, which is awesome. So now I can take like what I've learned, and that's something that I'm helping my clients do is like, okay, we've been doing all of this mindset work, but like now we actually need to put it into practice of doing this trauma healing and releasing this energy that we have inside of us. Like now we know what's causing the energy. Now we need to release it type thing.
Yep. Amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. This is such a great story.
Thank you.
You're doing such good things. So how's that changing now? Like do you see a change in how you coach people or how you will proceed to coach people in the future compared to when, a while ago?
Oh yeah. You have no idea. I actually have a client who is a fitness client, and she struggles with MS. And she is an amazing human, such a great person. And just had to put that out there. She's just awesome. And one of the things that I've learned a lot about is trauma and childhood trauma and autoimmune. And when I experienced the trauma release in myself and like did all of that, work on myself, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so relatable to so many of my other clients, because we think about it, we teach it, we hear it, but until you like really truly experience it, it's like a whole game changer. So this is definitely something that I'm now able So like help other women do. So there's a few clients that I'm actually working with to identify and then release. It's like the steps of it. You need to identify exactly what's going on and the symptoms and signs that your bodies are giving you, and remembering, like setting intentions for what trauma and energy that you need to release, and then actually doing it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and what's nice too, one thing I learned with TRE that was really cool is, and I was simultaneously taking a trauma class. This is what I was doing on my sabbatical, right?
Yeah.
But it was all really pertinent. It was really good for me. I didn't overdo it. But I was learning that sometimes, like what you're talking, like when you said the movement, the body movement therapy or things like TRE, where that stuff could be a beneficial suggestion for people is we have also repressed trauma and things too. And you're not trying to assign trauma to everyone. We're not trying to just go tell people what their trauma is. But we live in a world where, and trauma can perpetuate itself generationally and stuff like that. And some of that stuff can be things that is before your age of memory recollection.
Yeah.
And so what do you do when you were 1 and 2 years old and you were subjected or around things that were harsh and unhealthy and all that? And that's where they're like, some of this stuff is really beautiful because the body remembers. So these people can be affected. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we can help the body release it by doing things like saying, you may not know exactly what you're holding on to, but you can still tell your body that you're allowing it to release it. You can affirm that it's in a safe space, and you can do it like you said, how you were doing that with the movement therapy. Mm-hmm. And that's where they're finding that's really hopeful for people, just in case they're like, well, I don't really know. Like, I don't even know what's wrong with me or all this and this and this,
Exactly.
Like sometimes you don't need to know everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that it's so true, and like really focusing on that. And I think that's like, it's just crazy to think that like, it was like past science what was going on with my body at that point, when doctors were saying that they didn't understand why I wasn't, having a cycle. They didn't understand what was going on. There's no, like, even with my gut issues, no SIBO, no H. pylori, no candida, no like nothing, no celiac, no Crohn's, no nothing. So everybody was just kind of like shocked, no parasites. So, it was like, what is going on? It was all energy. And it's just crazy how it has like led me up to like here. And the fact that the doctors were even saying like, we don't know why you don't have a cycle. And I was like, okay, so this is past like all of our minds, basically. Now it's like up to me to like figure out my body and like to create like a safe environment inside and out for my body.
Yeah, which they would call, what would they call it? Like spontaneous. They call it spontaneous something, which basically means random and without explanation. Yeah. And let's put it to bed at that, when really like, it's not that random. It's not that random that you have a regenerative vessel that, if you provide it what it needs, it's not perfect by any means, but it does work really hard for you, and it can do some really cool things. So yeah, I'm really proud of you. That's such a great story.
Thank you
such
so
great
much.
Hope for people. Yes, I'm so excited to have you on here sharing this. Yeah. Is there anything else? If you could leave everybody with one piece of advice, what is the biggest thing that you would give? I know that's like a huge question. Some people are great with huge questions, and other people are like, crap, I would have liked 48 hours to think about that question.
And it's just this one thing.
Yeah. So like, what do you think was your biggest that you would give to other people?
Yeah, I'd say my biggest takeaway from my journey that I would tell other people, like my biggest like advice is truly and honestly, and I know you guys probably hear this a lot, but like, listen to your body and honor your body. If your body is handing you and telling you all of these different signs and symptoms, do not ignore it. And don't just, have in your mind that it's quote unquote normal. It is a reason why your body is giving you these signs. And it's up to you to figure out what it is. And kind of like Brittany said earlier, you are your best. You are the CEO of your health, as the Buddha belly. That's like our thing. Like, you are the CEO of your health. You are the best practitioner of your own. and just trust your body, trust its timeline, but just work with it and be patient during your healing journey.
Yep. That's amazing. Thanks so much, Thanks so much for being on this show.
Yeah.
Can you tell everybody where to find you, Emily? Emily, we love our coaches, especially because so many of them have a personal story. And coaches like Emily are really powerful because not only do they have the knowledge, but they have the journey too and the empathy. And that's just not something you can just get from just anybody. So where can they find you, Em?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Coach Emmy Lou Fit, EMMYLEWFIT. And then my communities page on Instagram is Positively Fit Community. And then we also have a Facebook page, Positively Fit Community. And I also have a Facebook page as well. And it's Emily Lewis, LEWIS.
And we'll link some of that in the comments too. So congrats, Em. She is now an active coach. She now has a cycle back. Emily has a period, and we're so excited about that.
Everybody was walking up to me telling me congratulations when you're getting your
period.
All
those years we were shamed for being girls and having a period, and she's probably on her period, and all that negative connotation, right?
It was
you
so
see this
funny.
In a whole new light.
I just had my communities event this past weekend, and my clients were here, my family, my other coaches, and they were all coming up to me saying, congratulations on like starting your period. I said, people were even like looking around at the event, like, what? Because they were saying it out loud. I was like, thank you. I started my cycle.
So good. That's so good.
So funny.
All right. Oh, yeah. Thanks so much. We're so proud of you. Yep. And thank you guys for joining us on another episode.